Okay, gentlemen, we're live and recording.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. We've opened up the webinar and I can see people are streaming in. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Dr. Tim Hess. I'm one of your panelists, along with Dr. Gary Hayamoto and our Executive Director, Valerie Bartoli. Today's webinar is being put on by WEO Media with Mr. Ian McNickle. So welcome to Mr. McNickle. What you're seeing go by your screen right now is just different flyers for our Washington Academy of General Dentistry Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series. We'd like to thank all our sponsors that have been involved: the Washington Academy of General Dentistry, the University of Washington School of Dentistry CE department is handling your CE. Comet USA is one of our sponsors, as is the Academy of General Dentistry UW student chapter. We'd like to thank our friends in Canada, the Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentistry and Prosthodontics, Snohomish Dental Society, Pierce County Dental Society, and Seattle King County Dental Society, along with Patterson Dental. All those individuals have helped bring these webinars to you. We have 3 webinars today. We have our presentation from WEO Media this morning, and then we'll have Janice Hurley after that at noon, and then this afternoon at 2:30 we have Dr. Tazir Suleiman. He'll be presenting on 30 years of bleaching. Where are we now? Keep in mind, we also have webinars tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, one of our grad students from the University of Washington, Dr. Giardino, will be presenting on the updated periodontal classification system. So that's going to be a good one for both your hygienist, your front desk, and also for yourself. So I know it's a little frustrating. These periodontists change the systems, it seems like every few years, but Dr. Giardino does a great job of putting this together, and that's maybe one of those things we can work on as we're out of our offices, getting up to speed on that. Penny Reed will be joining us next week. And then a good friend of the Washington Academy of General Dentistry, Michael Melkers, will be speaking on occlusion. It was pretty consistent through the webinars. We've been getting lots of questions regarding occlusion. And so Dr. Melkers does a very strong program on occlusion, as well as our buddies from the Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentistry and Prosthodontics, Dr. Kim Parlett, Dr. Ian Tester, and Mark Douglas. Those guys will all have a little bit of occlusion in their presentations there. So that series will be May 7th. We're looking forward to also the Arkansas AGD is going to do a day for us. And Dr. Kenton Ross has lined up a nice set of speakers from out that way. We look forward to welcoming the International Academy of Nathology, who will be doing a full day of speakers on Monday, May 4th. So Dr. Yassin continues his implant study club. He had a great guest yesterday, Dr. Steve Rasner, who's also been on one of our webinars and did a real nice job. So moving forward here, if you miss anything on these webinars, yes, you don't need to type into the chat box, are these being recorded? They are being recorded, and they are available at YouTube. These webinars generally go up about 4 or 5 hours after the presentation. Just takes a little time to convert the audio and video so we can post it on YouTube. And those will be there for some time period. Yes, everyone is welcome to attend these webinars. You do not need to be an AGD member. You will receive CE credit. You will receive CE credit to the email address you registered at when you signed up for today's webinar. So AGD members, keep in mind that you do not need to report these CE credits to the Academy of General Dentistry. We will do that for you automatically, but don't be looking for those CE credits in the next day or so. They will probably take a couple of weeks to post to your transcript. So yes, I know you're all eager to keep up to date on your CE and your transcript, etc., but give us a little bit of time. Today, we are going to hold questions to the end for Mr. McNickle. And what we'll do is after the presentation, we'll go through some Q&A. If you have questions for our speakers today, our speaker, you have options with your Zoom meeting. You have a chat feature, and you also have a Q&A. If you have a question for the speaker, use the Q&A feature. We're not going to be using the hands up option either on this webinar. Chat is fine to put, hey, good lecture or those type of comments in there. But if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A and try and keep the question focused. And not get into a paragraph describing some obscure situation. Please, for the sake of being able to get through multiple questions and get to as many questions for our speaker as possible, let's do that. Okay, well, welcome once again to the Washington Academy of General Dentistry Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series. This is a continuation of the weeks of CE that we've been doing. We so far have probably been through about 18 just different webinars. We have another 20 webinars lined up before the May 18th date that here in Washington State, Governor Inslee has mandated we be out to. You will see flyers going by. There's QR codes on those flyers, and that will allow you to register for upcoming webinars. There's a couple past flyers on there just to show you who spoke yesterday. If you have any problems using those QR codes to register for any of the upcoming webinars, simply go to www.washingtonagd.org and you'll be able to scroll through the offerings there. Please keep in mind some of those are paid for offerings, but this webinar, the Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series, is free to you, your team members, your colleagues, and please feel free to share the information. We've had really great turnout from around the world. We've had over 10,000 dentists from the United States register for these, as well as 1,300 from Canada. We've got people attending from Bermuda, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, etc. So welcome to everybody out there. Welcome to the California Academy of General Dentistry, Texas Academy of General Dentistry, Arkansas Academy of General Dentistry. Your sponsors for these webinars are the Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentistry and Prosthodontics, Comet USA. CE credit is coming from the University of Washington School of Dentistry. Seattle King County Dental Society, Pierce County Dental Society, and Snohomish County Dental Society are our sponsors. And thank you to Patterson for promoting our webinar series here. So it looks like we've got the majority of you into the webinar here. Play around with the interface because you're going to find sometimes you can play around with the view, etc., to give you more ideal for your viewing situation. With that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and introduce Mr. Ian McNickle. Welcome, Mr. McNickle. You with us?
I am. Good morning.
Thank you very much for spending your time. I know this is, a busy time for everybody right now, and I see you're doing a lot of these webinars, so we appreciate you spending some time with us.
You bet.
We're kind of familiar with you here at the Washington Academy of General Dentistry, but for those that aren't familiar with WEO Media, could you just tell us a little bit about your company before you launch into your presentation?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So WEO Media is a company that I founded with my partners in 2009 and it's a dental marketing agency. All we do is dentistry, dental marketing. So we work with over 700 practices all over the country, just about all 50 states at this point. And it's really just a lot of marketing activities, digital marketing, websites and SEO and social media. And so the approach that I take on these webinars is really based on data, on case studies, on just our experience over the last 11 years, working with hundreds of practices. And so I love sharing this stuff. We're in very unusual times right now. So I'm excited to share kind of some of these thoughts this morning.
All righty. Well, perfect. Thank you very much again. I'm going to silence myself here. I'll monitor the Q&A, and when you're finished, we can hit you with some questions.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to give just a brief bio overview of myself here for the agenda. I'll talk about in normal times, pre-coronavirus, what did marketing used to look like, right, a couple months ago, and outline what does a normal marketing program look like, basically to establish a baseline, right, to establish here's what it looks like in normal times. Most of the webinar, though, we're going to focus on what can we be doing now, specifically right now, to take advantage of this situation that we're in. And believe it or not, there actually are some serious opportunities that I'm finding right now that we can take advantage of. So I want to share all that information with everyone as we go through this. And as Dr. Hess mentioned, we'll cover the questions and answers at the end. Briefly about my background, as I mentioned, so I started WEO Media in 2009. Prior to that, my background actually, I'm a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. Started my career first 10 years in high tech, worked for Siltronic and Xerox. Then I got an MBA from the University of Washington in Seattle. And the last 14, 15 years, I've been an entrepreneur building a number of different companies. I published my first book last year, which was pretty cool. It was a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. It's titled Mastering Practice Growth. And we just like giving that out to people because it's just got a lot of good content on how to grow a dental practice. And I've been fortunate also, Dentistry Today named me a top CE leader and consultant the last couple of years. So that's a nice little feather in the cap. So I appreciate them for that. But anyway, that's my background. So let's talk about marketing. Now, in a normal environment, right, there are three primary components for marketing a practice, right? You've got internal marketing, where you're generating patient referrals through that word of mouth buzz. To me, that's the most effective way. And this is, again, coming from a guy who owns a marketing company. And I'm telling you, the most effective way is actually you're doing it yourself, right? It's the internal marketing, generating those referrals. That's just the best form of marketing there is, right? But what's happened over the years is for most practices, it's not sufficient. It's not enough to simply rely purely on referrals. Even for specialists, if we have some specialists on the call today, we're probably mostly general dentists today, but even for specialists, it's hard to rely purely on referrals anymore. So over the years, there was an emergence of two other types of marketing: online marketing and direct consumer marketing. Online marketing, we're talking about your website, of course, as a central hub. Then we've got, Google search rankings with SEO and pay-per-click ads and social media and online reputation management and videos and all these things. And we'll talk about all this stuff in some detail, right? So the emergence of online marketing has been coming like a tidal wave, and it's not slowing down. It will continue to be a major force in marketing for practices in the future. Similarly, direct consumer marketing. So this is, direct mail campaigns, ads, print ads, for some people getting more aggressive, maybe radio and TV and things of that nature. Most practices, the vast majority of their marketing is the first two items there, the internal marketing and the online marketing. And so in normal times, we like to target a budget of like 3 to 5% of collections of your revenue, right? Some of you may have heard of an organization called the Academy of Dental CPAs. It's a group that several dozen dental CPA firms representing over 9,000 dental practices around the country. And they collectively have a ton of knowledge about what makes a successful practice. And I love picking their brain on some stuff. And I've talked to a lot of their CPAs. One of the kind of nuggets I got from them was they said, for practices, the practices that we see that are really growing and doing the best spend between 3 to 5%, some of them even as high as 7% of revenue on marketing. And so that's interesting because I went back and I kind of analyzed some of our clients and I found pretty similar story. So kind of a rule of thumb, if you're thinking about how much money should I spend on marketing, I would say 3 to 5% of collections is kind of a general rule of thumb. Now, there are exceptions. If you're a startup, that could be different. If you are a well-established practice, you've been around for 20 years and you get tons of referrals, yeah, you may not need that. Maybe 1% is enough for you, right? This is just a kind of a ballpark rule of thumb. But I would consider that it's not all about the spend. It's really about what you get for the spend, right? What's the return on investment? One way to think about return on investment is your patient acquisition cost. And all of this is in the framework of in normal times pre-coronavirus. We'll get to post-coronavirus here in a minute. So normally, what we see with general dentistry in particular is if the digital marketing is working well, we should be able to generate new patients for between $100 and $150 per patient. And typically a new patient in year one is worth, $700 to $1,000 for a year, for the first year to a general dentistry practice. So that's a pretty good return on investment if you can be in that space, right? So this is something that to consider in terms of if you should be spending, what you should be spending it on. Most of that 3 to 5% will be on the digital marketing and the direct consumer marketing. Not a lot is typically spent on internal marketing. Although one other, I guess, form of that could be study clubs. Again, if we have any specialists on the line, I would consider study clubs a form of a marketing expense as well. Okay, so this is kind of an ideal times. What about now, right? This is a really unprecedented time. I mean, nobody, 3 months ago, 6 months ago could have imagined any of us would be looking at a country that practices are shut down, businesses are shut down, restaurants. I mean, it's really hard to wrap your head around. We've been in this now. I live in Washington State as well. And, as Dr. Hess mentioned, we've been kind of sheltered in place here for a while, and we're getting used to it, but I don't like it. I don't think anybody likes it. So we're making the best we can. So nowadays, what can we be doing and thinking about marketing? Well, I'm going to go through kind of those 3 items again: internal, direct consumer, and online marketing as it pertains to right now. So obviously, if the office is closed, you're not going to be generating a lot of referrals, right? You're pretty much either not seeing any patients or you're seeing emergency patients, something like that, maybe even doing teledentistry. So I would say, in terms of what can you be doing for internal marketing right now, actually not a lot, not much, but what I think you could be doing in this particular part of your marketing is thinking, strategizing. What could we do when we open back up to really make it a big deal, right? Can we have some kind of fun welcome back campaigns, some giveaways, make it an experience? Because if you think about, what typically drives referrals from patients, it's not that you gave them a Starbucks gift card or you gave them some movie gift certificates. People like that stuff. It's cool, fine, but it rarely actually leads to anybody really talking about your practice. The reason people talk about your practice is experience. What experience did they have? Now, experience comes in different forms. One type of experience, the most important type of experience, of course, is just, the clinical care, right? What was their interaction with the patient, or, with the staff and with the doctor, and how was the clinical outcome, right? Those are the most important things. But think about all the different things that you could do to really make a big deal. Maybe it's, you've got your waiting room's got balloons, or maybe some cake, or, I don't know, think of something fun, creative that you could do to really make it a big deal, not business as usual. Like, hey, we're so excited to see you guys back. Come up with some kind of fun, cool, creative ways to think about how do we create a buzz? How do we get people talking when people come back? So that's, in terms of internal marketing, that's kind of the main advice I'd give for today. Direct consumer marketing is one of the other 3 items for marketing. So right now, I really don't think people should be doing much of anything for the most part in this, with the exception of, and I'll talk about this towards the end of the webinar, with the exception of potentially talking about your safety messaging and potentially teledentistry or emergency dentistry. So, but otherwise, in normal times, you might be doing direct mailers to just drive patient flow in general. But nowadays, I would not be doing that type of advertising. I don't think that makes much sense. Now, online marketing is where we're going to spend a fair amount of time here digging in. So, because I see a lot of misconceptions and confusion, and actually some not wise decision making, I would say, in this area. So I want to spend a little time really digging in and getting specific on what services should you go ahead and turn off, save some money, and then what things are really critical to keep on and why. When we think about online marketing, this is something that I teach my staff This is something that I always talk about in my lectures, and I also wrote about in my book. I talk a lot about the 6 pillars of online marketing. Now, the reason we talk about these things is when a patient is considering looking for a doctor, whether it's a chiropractor or a dentist, an optometrist, whatever, they go online, they do a Google search, they look at the website, they'll look at some reviews, probably check out your Facebook activity, maybe even watch a video or 2 on YouTube that you shot. Patients typically look at 3 to 5 pieces of information before they make a decision on picking up the phone and calling a practice, if they're looking for a new doctor. So it's not sufficient to have a good website, but 7 Google reviews, or be a rock star on Facebook, but your website's not mobile optimized. You can't have glaring chinks in your armor anymore and perform well with online marketing. You just can't. It's way too competitive, and there's way too many people looking online. So the 6 pillars, website is kind of that foundational bedrock. That's the base foundation we build the program on. So the website needs to be secure, mobile responsive. Over 60, 70% now of traffic is on mobile devices. So if you're not sure if your website's mobile optimized, one thing you can do is go on Google, type in mobile friendly test, and hit return, and Google will return a mobile friendly link. And it's just a little form there. It's just a little field. Type in your website address, www.whatever.com. And in about 30 seconds, Google will return a message. Now, if it gives you the green, yep, you're mobile secure, you're good to go. Great. If you're mobile optimized, that's good. But if Google comes back and says you're not mobile optimized, that is a major, major problem, because well over half of your website traffic is on mobile devices. And so if you're not mobile responsive, you're not mobile optimized right now, that's a big problem. So that would be one piece of advice. If you're not sure, definitely check that. Now, the second pillar is search engine optimization, and we'll talk about all these in a little bit more detail. Search engine optimization is simply a bunch of different things and processes you need to do to get to rank highly on a Google search or a Yahoo or a Bing search. PPC, pay per click, these are paid ads or paid traffic. So we'll talk about that more, but paid ads can be very effective at driving targeted traffic to your website. Online reputation, online reviews. So in dentistry, we talk about the big 4: Google, Facebook, Yelp, and Health Grades. Those are the big 4, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But those are important to have reviews on all those review sites. Social media, as it pertains to dentistry, again, really we're talking about Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Other than that, I don't honestly see a lot of value for practices other than those 3 platforms. And then last but not least, videos. Videos bring to life everything else. Videos make websites more effective, social media more effective, and everything else. So we'll talk about each of these in some detail, but I wanted to lay a little bit of groundwork. So in normal times, all 6 of these things should all be firing on all cylinders. You should be doing all 6 of these things in various demand based on what your new patient growth goals are. If you don't need a lot of new patient growth from online marketing, then maybe you don't need to do pay-per-click ads, but the rest of it you should always be doing. So this is in normal times. Now, what should it look like nowadays? Well, I'm going to go through and kind of talk about each one of those 6 pillars specifically for right now. What can you do? What can you not do? What can you turn off? What can you should you keep on? So let's start with the website. The first pillar is the website. So the first thing, which should be hopefully obvious to most folks, is it's really critical to keep your website live, turned on during this downturn, right? I'll give you a couple reasons. First, I'll give you a technical reason, then I'll give you a business reason. So technically, why should you keep it live? So let me explain how Google works interacts with your websites. Now, Google is an algorithm, right? These search engines are very complicated algorithms. What they do is for most average websites, my WEO Media website, your practice website, we're just average businesses. We're not Amazon, we're not eBay, we're not these big gargantuan sites. For most normal websites, Google will analyze our site about once a month, about once every 30 days. Google comes through and does what's called indexing our websites. When it indexes our websites, it stores all the lines of code and content and everything on its servers, and it compares your website to what it saw 30 days prior and says, has anything been updated? Do we have better code? Do we have new content? Do we have blog posts? Have we added videos or photos? And so Google's judging you every 30 days. And that's really where search engine optimization rankings come from. But the key piece here is Google's indexing your site, and over time, you build up domain authority, which helps your website rank higher in a search result. Well, if you turn off your website, what happens is Google de-indexes your website. That domain loses all of its credibility and all of its SEO domain authority. So if you turn it off and say, oh, you know, my practice will be closed for a couple of months, I'm just going to turn off my website and turn it back on when patients come back. Well, the problem is in that 2 months you did that, you just killed your previous years of SEO performance. So maybe you're on page 2 or page 3 right now for Google search. If you turn off your website, when you come back, you won't be on the first 10 pages. So don't turn off your website. Lesson number 1 today. Please keep your website live, okay? That's one technical reason. Now, the business reason, there are actually many. You want to use the website to communicate with patients right now, your current status. You're still open. Are you seeing emergency patients? If so, what hours? Are you answering the phone? If you engage with live chat or teledentistry or some of those functions, those flow through the website as well. And we'll talk about those things a little bit later as well. And then patients can communicate with you if they have emergencies, if they need to figure out how to reach you. If your website's down, how are they going to figure that out, right? So with the website, the key thing, keep it live and make sure that it's updated with your current information. We've been putting a lot of banners on our client websites. Just put a horizontal band across the home page with just instructions, information about, are we seeing patients right now? If so, what emergency hours are we answering the phone? Can you talk with us on our live chat? Like whatever your communication strategy is, we're putting banner messages across the website to communicate that. So it's the first thing patients see when they come to that website is, what's the status of my doctor? Are they seeing me or not? What are my options to engage here, right? So that's really important right now. The second pillar for right now, search engine optimization. So I talked a little bit about that just a second ago. Now, how does search engine optimization work? At a high level, just to give a brief summary, Google, when it decides how to rank a website, how high on page 1 or page 2 or page 10 or whatever, Google looks at over 200 variables to determine how to rank your website on a Google search, okay? Over 200 things. Now, some of those things are on the website itself, what we call website content and code and things of that nature. And then other things are off the website, have nothing to do with the website, that determine your Google rankings, like reviews on those major review sites I talked about, the big 4. Or backlinks to the website, or directories like Vitals and Health Grades and Yellow Pages and Dex. And there's, you know, hundreds of directories, like all these things Google looks at to determine how to rank your website. And this takes time. Like I said, Google's judging you every 30 days. And so over time, you build up domain authority, you build up Google ranking performance. And it takes time to gain that traction. Now, I'm a marathon runner. I love running marathons. I've done dozens of marathons. I've even done some ultra marathons and an Ironman. I love the long, grueling stuff. And so I like to talk about analogies in terms of running. So, and I think actually this analogy works perfectly for what's happening right now with SEO. So think about SEO right now. Let's say all of us on this webinar right now, we're all running a marathon and we're around mile 18 or 20 and we're starting to get tired and whew, it's starting to get tough. And all of a sudden, everyone around you starts sitting down or walking, and you're the only one who keeps on running. You're just jogging along. Now, when everybody's jogging like you're not really separating from the pack. But when everybody sits down or starts walking, now you quickly separate from the pack. And that's what happens right now with SEO. What's happening is the vast majority of practices right now are calling up their SEO company, their digital marketing company, and say, hey, turn off my SEO, turn off this, turn off that. I'm not seeing patients. I don't want to spend any money on marketing right now. And I can understand that logic. Hey, no cash is coming in. I want to minimize cash going out. I get it. It does make sense to a degree. However, anytime you can invest money and see a really good return down the road, I would suggest as a fellow business owner, my recommendation would be you might want to consider investing in areas where you could get a big return down the road. SEO right now is one of those things. So if you continue to invest in SEO right now, what we're seeing is a lot of people are stopping their efforts, and you're going to separate from the pack. And trust me, when patients come back, you're going to want to be on page 1. So maybe let's say you're on page 2 or page 3 right now, or at the bottom of page 1 even. If you keep doing SEO, what's going to happen is your rankings will climb over the next month or two as people are pausing and stopping their efforts. And it is very much a monthly thing. And I'm going to show you a case study here in just a minute, which shows the impact of turning SEO on or off. So here's a key takeaway, and this is something that I've been telling my staff and telling my clients. There will probably never be a better time to make rapid gains in Google rankings than in the next few months. I firmly believe this because of what I just said. Google analyzes us every 30 days on our websites. And if we stop, our rankings will continue to go up while everybody else stops, right? If we keep going while they stop, just like that. Don't stop running the marathon. You're almost to the end, right? So there's a huge opportunity right now to do this. Now, the caveat here, I'm talking about real SEO. What does that mean? So unfortunately, in our industry, there are many companies who have figured out, hey, you know what? If I just charge this doctor $300 to $400 a month and call it SEO, it's a low enough budget amount that I don't really get scrutinized and I don't really have to do anything. But the doctor thinks they're getting SEO and doesn't know any better. So doctor can check the box, hey, I'm doing SEO, and the company really isn't doing anything for that money. It's very difficult to do real solid SEO for that low of money because there's just way too much work to be done. So real SEO means unique content. So for example, if your website has duplicate stock content that's the same as on many other doctor websites, and you're paying somebody to do SEO, they're not doing SEO. One of the very first things you do is write unique content. And if you're not sure if you have unique content, I'll put my contact information up at the end of this, and I'll offer anybody who wants, either myself or one of my consultants, we'll analyze your website and we'll analyze your SEO and let you know on some of this stuff. But this is really critical. I talked with a doctor in California a couple weeks ago, and she said, well, I'm paying this company, which you've all heard of this company, $400 a month to do SEO. And I said, well, let me see your website. And so I pulled up her website and I said, okay, your content's all duplicate. So it's the same as on hundreds of other websites. Your code hasn't been optimized. And I've analyzed some stuff and a bunch of her directories were messed up. And I was like, literally, they're doing nothing for your SEO, like literally nothing. All the basic things that they should be doing, they're not doing. And I explained to her how SEO works. And I showed her a bunch of graphs and a bunch of analysis. And long story short, I said, look, they're not doing anything for you. No wonder you're not ranking well, right? And so the caveat is turning off SEO is only bad if they're actually doing real SEO. If they're not doing anything, then go ahead and turn off and save the money. Now, here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is one of my clients at WEO Media. And what we're seeing on this graph, on the horizontal x-axis, you see months. So we got 28 months worth of data. On the vertical y-axis, we're seeing phone calls. So what we're looking at here is phone calls per month. Now, with their previous website, they were getting about 20 to 30 phone calls a month from their website. When we launched their website, we were doing SEO, search engine optimization, right from the very beginning. And you can see how quickly the phone calls started increasing because their Google rankings were increasing. So they're getting tons and tons of phone calls. So we tripled, quadrupled the number of calls that they're getting from potential new patients. Now, unfortunately for this practice, they were not doing a very good job of answering the phone. They had about 40% of their calls were going to voicemail. So if you're paying an agency, hundreds or thousands of dollars even to generate leads for your practice, but you're not answering the phone diligently, then you're just wasting money. And unfortunately, that was the case with this practice. And we've said, hey, doctor, because he called to cancel, I'm not saying a return. Like, well, you are getting way, way more calls than you used to. And these are all potential new patient calls for the most part, because we recorded the calls, but they just weren't answering. We saw 40% were going to voicemail. And so for the purpose of the webinar today, I'm not really giving an SEO talk so much as just explaining, here's what happens when you turn off SEO. So the doctor said, well, I don't agree or whatever. And so he canceled his SEO, and the phone calls just dropped off a cliff, right? So within a few months, he was back down to where he was. Within about 2 to 3 months, he was at about 50 calls. And a few months after that, he dropped all the way back to where he originally was 2 years prior. But he dropped off pretty fast. And this is what happens. So this is what I'm talking about right now, visually. If you're ranking well and you're doing SEO and you stop, then everybody else continues. This is what happens. Your calls drop off, your rankings drop off. But the converse is also true. If you're plugging along with not a great ranking performance, and then all of a sudden you start doing SEO and everybody else stops, you could rapidly gain right now. So just consider this. I would highly encourage all of you on the call right now, because all of you, we're all in different states here. There's people from all over the country on this webinar. Some of you are going to open up your practices sooner than others, but regardless, SEO is a long play. It's not a short play. So the sooner you can get going on actual SEO, the better it's going to be for your practice. So this is the second pillar, SEO. The advice here, keep it going, keep it active. Okay. The third pillar, pay per click. Now these are the paid ads. So if you go on Google and you do a Google search, and at the very, very top of the page, you'll typically see 3 or 4 listings. These are paid ads, okay? Now, with these paid ads, these are typically focused on geographies and certain services and things like that. In normal times, what I would say is you're not going to want to focus on, oh, we're just trying to grow for new patient growth in general. You're not going to want to do that, right? Right now, if you're seeing emergency patients, definitely you could consider running some pay-per-click campaigns. We do have a number of clients who are doing this and generating patients from it. So you could do that. If you are running ads, some of the things that we're seeing that are pretty effective, things like we're open, seeing emergency patients, or seeing patients now. Call us now, we're open for emergency patients, something like that. Those types of ads can be very effective. When they click on the ad, it should drop them to your website. And when you come to the website, ideally, the best thing to do is to have some kind of combination of your phone number and like a live chat service, or maybe even a teledentistry service, something like that, where you can engage and convert those potential leads. So in normal times, I think, pay-per-click is great. Right now, I think it probably should be dialed back and focusing very specifically on emergency patients if that's something that you're open to doing. We're definitely seeing patients or seeing clients get results with this, but it does vary. It really depends on the market that you're in and the type of patients you're attracting. Okay, the fourth pillar, online reputation. So these would be the 4 major review sites, right? Google, Facebook, Yelp, and Health Grades. Now in dentistry, reviews are really important because they serve 2 different purposes. One of them is obvious. It's your online reputation. So patients come on there, they look at your reviews, they get a sense for what kind of quality practice is this, what are the patient experiences like, do I want to come to this place, right? That's what we all think of when we think of online reputation, and that is true. That's all true, and it's important because patients will go there and look at reviews. Now, the secondary factor that's equally important, reviews are a really strong search engine optimization, a really strong SEO factor. So if you're getting lots of consistent reviews every month, it's really, really helpful for your Google rankings and your Yahoo and Bing rankings for that matter too. So right now, that's normal times, right? So right now, since you're not seeing patients on a consistent basis or potentially at all, you can't solicit reviews, right, if you're not seeing patients. However, something to consider here, make sure that you've gone onto at least these major 4 review pages here that I'm showing, and make sure you update your office hours, because what happens is not every patient goes to your website, okay? Some of them just type in your name, and the first thing they see is your Google business listing, and they just see that and say, okay, looks like they're closed. Okay, looks like they're not seeing patients or whatever. And so you could potentially lose patient flow or lose emergency patients if those things are not updated. So make sure you go on at least these 4 review sites and directories, and make sure you've updated with whatever. If you're seeing emergency patients, make a note of that. If you have different hours, make sure that those are updated and accurate. And if you're doing teledentistry, you can make that mention of that as well. Now, there's another thing I want to mention in this topic, which is online reputation. Google, a few weeks ago, made an announcement specific to COVID-19. What they said was, during this kind of pandemic situation that we're in, during this period, they felt that people were probably much more likely to, and maybe they had data to support this, I don't know, but they said people we think are more likely right now to be more willing to write bad reviews for people, because everybody's at a heightened tension, everybody's a little bit freaked out or emotional, and businesses conversely are not fully staffed. People are furloughed, businesses are skeleton crews, and so they're not going to be able to respond in the manner that they normally can. So Google felt like this is an environment for an explosion of bad reviews, and we don't want to punish all these businesses. So what we're going to do for the foreseeable future is we're not going to show any new reviews. So any reviews that get posted in this downturn, and Google didn't specify how long this would remain in effect. When they also didn't specify what would happen when they lift the restriction. Are they going to show all the reviews that were posted during this period that it's on hold? Are those just going to be deleted and lost forever? I don't know. I suspect they'll probably show them at some point, but I really don't know what they're going to do. So the message here for everybody is, if you think you're generating Google reviews right now, they're not going to show up on your review page. They might in the future, I don't know. I also don't know if the other review sites are going to follow suit, because Google is the big dog, and typically people tend to kind of follow their lead. I have not yet seen other review sites follow their lead yet in terms of like pausing reviews. But you know, we shall see. So that's just something to keep an eye on. Now, the other side of that coin is, and I've had a couple of doctors, you know, call me after my webinars and say, well, gosh, Ian, that kind of stinks because I'm seeing emergency patients, I'm helping them out. Seems like I'd be more likely to get some good reviews right now. And I agree with them. I say, you're right. I agree with that. But I think Google had to look at just the entire country and all types of businesses, and they just kind of made that blanket decision. So, I mean, I see both sides of it. It is what it is. You know, I can't affect Google, neither can any of us, right? So it's just don't shoot the messenger. I'm just providing information, but to just be aware of that. That's the main thing. Okay. The fifth pillar, social media. Now, this might shock you, but people are spending a lot of time on their phones right now, right? Ha, ha, ha. So clearly people are spending an enormous amount of time on their digital devices. In particular, you know, Facebook and Instagram continue to dominate. They are getting most of the traffic, most of the time spent online are on those two platforms, and YouTube. So since people are doing that, let's take advantage of that. Let's use that to our advantage a little bit, and not in a cynical way, but just in a way to let's maintain contact, let's maintain exposure with people. So what I'm recommending to our clients is, look, consider posting 1 to 3 times a week. Just, you know, if you have the Facebook app on your phone or the Instagram app on your phone, it's really easy to open up the app, do a little short selfie video, something like that, right? You don't have to do a video, you can just post something, but, you know, take a little selfie video. Hey, I'm out walking the dog, beautiful sunny day, just thinking about you guys. Can't wait to get back and see you in the practice. Hope you're all doing well. Stay safe. Take care, guys. Bye. Boom. That takes you like 15 seconds to do a little video like that. Post it on your Instagram or your Facebook. And you know, your patients will see that. And so do that a few times a week. Keep it positive, you know, personal, keep it real. Just try to be, you know, maintain a positive attitude. I think that's the most important thing, regardless of what you think about the politics that's happening right now, regardless of what you think about the shutdowns, if it's a good idea, bad idea, whatever. I wouldn't go there because people are just really opinionated on these things. I would just stay positive and focus on the relationships, right? Focusing, hey, looking forward to seeing you guys again. So I think if you can do that, you have an opportunity to really maintain connections with your patient base right now. And again, this is free. You know, this is easy to do. It's free, and probably a lot of you are already spending a fair amount of time on social media anyways, so go ahead and post stuff. Now, the other thing I would mention here, if you're not already doing this, it's really important that you have a business page that you're running your business stuff through, not your personal page. So for Facebook, for example, you set up a business page. The business Facebook pages have way more functionality, way more options and plugins and abilities than a personal page. And so you really want to make sure that you're not running your practice through your personal Facebook page. If you're not sure about that, this is the beautiful thing about YouTube and the internet, right? Like, Ian, I don't know how to post videos on my Facebook page. I've never done that before. Well, hey, we're all sitting around watching webinars and getting really educated right now. This is something to think about. If you're kind of like, Ian, I don't know this social media stuff, I'm not comfortable with it. Literally go on Google or YouTube and type in, how do I create Facebook videos? How do I post a video to my Facebook page, right? All you can do, you can watch, you know, a couple, 2, 3 videos on YouTube. It'll show you and walk you through it. It's not that hard. Now, if you haven't done something before, admittedly, right, it's a little scary if you've never done something before. But, you know, watch the videos, practice, and once you get it down, then start posting some stuff on your pages. I think this is something that's easy and free, and everybody can do it. So I just encourage you to take advantage of it. Okay, the 6th pillar, videos. Now, videos also obviously overlap with social media like we just talked about. But the other thing is, you know, you can consider some of these videos for your website. Now, generally speaking, videos on the website should be professionally shot, and videos on social media should just be selfies from your cell phone, right? That's the general rule of thumb. Now, right now, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to shoot a selfie video or 2 and maybe put that on your website, just kind of staying in touch with your patients. I think that kind of thing is acceptable right now. So consider that as you are thinking about, how do I stay in touch with patients? One of the things too that I'll share with you, Facebook put out a study about a year ago on the engagement levels of different types of posts. And this isn't dental specific, this is just across the board with all their business pages and all their pages. what they said was, if you have a post that's just text, that's kind of like the baseline, not a lot of engagement. If you have a photo, it was, 3 to 4 times more engaging. If you had a video, it was 17 times more engaging. So the moral of the story there is, if you're going to take the time and effort and energy to post on your social media, do videos. You don't have to always do videos, but videos are just so much more impactful for engagement. So I'd highly encourage you to think about that, okay? So those are the 6 pillars. Now, it's not all about the 6 pillars, because there are other things, especially right now, that we can take advantage of to help us in this current marketing environment, this current business environment. So one of the things that I think is a powerful combination is a 24/7 live chat combined with a teledentistry platform. We use a vendor that's got a really nice combination of services, and we use them for our clients, and it works great. But it doesn't matter who you use, just use somebody if you're trying to engage with patients. So what's cool about these programs is, typically if you're using a good program, the chat operators will have an onboarding session with the practice to understand your hours, your procedures, what you're willing to let them schedule and not schedule, what insurances you take, all that type of stuff. So they can actually answer intelligently in terms of trying to help schedule appointments, because what's happening is you still have traffic hitting your website. Just because you're not open anymore doesn't mean your traffic drops to 0. I've actually been looking at a number of our client websites, and all of them, of course, are dropping in search volume, no doubt. The traffic is down across the board. But some clients are not down nearly as much as I thought. Some of our clients are only down 20, 30% in their traffic, which is kind of shocking to me. Most of them are down 50 to 80%, which is what I would expect. But regardless, there's still hundreds of people. I was on the phone yesterday with a doctor, and he normally has about 500 to 600 people a month hitting his site. And right now he's on pace for about 300, 250 to 300 this month. And so that's actually still a fair amount of people hitting the site. And so if you have that many people still hitting the site, a good chunk of those people are probably patients, right? And so what we're doing with clients is we're saying, hey, let's put the live chat bot on your website. And in fact, we're kind of doing this 60-day trial right now. We're offering a free trial just to help everybody, because the chat people we're partnering with, they've agreed to work with us and say, hey, let's just give everybody this thing for free for at least the next couple months, so that they can have a way to try to convert and engage with their patients. And so what's cool about it is they will come to the website, they see the chat bot, there's a banner, we put a banner on the website, hey, we're seeing emergency patients, we're seeing teledentistry, whatever you're willing to do. And then they can engage in the chat, and then the chat operator will know the hours that the doctor is willing to be available every day for emergency dentistry or teledentistry appointments. And then they can text or email the doctor, hey, you've got a patient, and the doctor can be out in the garage, organizing the garage. They get the text, and they just hop on the phone and talk to the patient, right? So it's not that you're going to make a lot of revenue on teledentistry. You're not, right? The thing here I think that's important is, by doing teledentistry, you're maintaining contact with patients, and potentially you're keeping people out of the emergency room, which is probably as important as anything we talk about today. Is whatever you can do to keep people from going to the hospital, that's definitely a good thing. You're definitely doing some community service there, right? So I would encourage people, if you're willing to do teledentistry or emergency dentistry, there are a lot of options out there for this. Check around. I can tell you what I know about this stuff, but I'd encourage you guys to think about this, because it is something that can help right now in a number of ways. Now, another thing that can help right now is the old school newsletter, e-newsletter in particular. I'm talking about an emailed newsletter. So we do this for a bunch of our clients. It's just like a monthly service, but you can definitely do this yourself. The best do-it-yourself platforms out there, if you want to do this yourself, are Constant Contact. It's called Constant Contact. And then the other one is called MailChimp, as in chimpanzee, MailChimp. Those two are really nice do-it-yourself email marketing platforms where you could send out a monthly or twice a month or whatever, send out a newsletter to your patients just to stay in touch. I would recommend keeping the newsletters fairly short, probably a couple of articles. I'd say one article could be just general, maybe it's just some kind of fun, positive article you saw somewhere on the news, right? Try to give them a little positive. And then the other article could be just kind of keeping in touch with an update on the practice. Hey, it looks like, Governor Inslee is saying we're going to be reopening in May. Looking forward to seeing everybody. We'll keep you posted on our website and our newsletter and our social media with when we're planning to open and that kind of thing, right? So you can kind of stay in contact with people. And again, this is just another touch point. Not everybody you send this out to is going to read it, but what we're seeing right now is 20 to 35% open rates on these things. So it's not like people say, oh, nobody reads those things. Hey, we have the data and it's 20 to 35%. A lot of people are opening these newsletters right now because people are on their digital devices. They're checking their social media. They're reading their emails more than they normally do. So we're seeing pretty significant open rates. So again, if you get on Constant Contact or MailChimp and you do your own thing, this is like, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks a month. These are not expensive services. And they're very impactful, again, for maintaining contact with your patient base. Now, another thing I would want to talk about here is just safety messaging in general. And this applies to all the different pillars and everything we're kind of talking about so far this morning. Think about it in terms of this, right? So we've got a population out there who is, obviously everyone's super aware of the coronavirus and everybody is heightened about social distancing and safety measures. I mean, all of us on this call, we all knew about PPE long before, you know, the last couple of months, but most of the general public had never heard of PPE before. And so the fact is there are a lot of things that dental practices have always done that the general public doesn't know about that you guys are already doing to maintain safety, right? You deal with patients who potentially have AIDS or have infectious diseases. This is not new for you, right? So here's what I'm recommending to our clients. Make a list of everything you can think of that results in a safe environment, whether it's sterilization, your PPE, stuff that you wear, your protocols and procedures for that stuff. Do you have any UV sterilization, your autoclave? Do you do air purification, right? Do you have an air filter that kills viruses, right? Whatever you can think of, just type out a list. Step one is just type out a list of everything you can think of, okay? That's step one. Step two would be put that information, create a web page on your website that lists everything out there, right? And what I'd recommend is on the homepage of your website, put like a little link or a button or a banner or something that says, you know, safety technology in our practice or something like that, right? And then link to this page inside your website that lists everything that you do, right? If it's new, if it's something you've done forever, doesn't matter, right? Because patients don't know. But this is a huge hot button right now, right? And so once you kind of create the safety content on your website, now you can promote it, right? This is where you could link to it from your social media posts, from your e-newsletter, with whatever existing communications you're putting out there. You can kind of link back, hey, just wanted to let everybody know, like, let's say you're doing that little 15-second Facebook post I just talked about, right? Hey, everybody, just wanted to let you know, we take safety really seriously at our practice. We just posted content on our website describing all the 12 steps or the 15 things that we do to keep our patients safe. You know, please check it out. It's at www.whatever.com. And then people go to your website and they read about it. And what happens is they become much more comfortable about coming back to see you. Now, I understand that we don't all fully understand what things are going to look like, what's going to be required, you know, by the ADA or the government or whoever when we do go back to work. But let's just tell them what we know as of today, right? Well, here's all the stuff that we're doing today that's going to help you. And as you get updates, update it. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So think about those things. I think safety is such a huge hot button right now that if you can put this messaging on your website and your social, it'll be really effective. Now, taking this a step further, if you wanted to try to market for new patient flow, like if you say, hey, we're going to be opening up in a couple, 2-3 weeks, I could probably start marketing for this now. Well, you could do paid ads on Google, paid ads on Facebook, and even direct mailers. I was on the phone yesterday with a group of doctors. I did a webinar with a group of doctors yesterday on the East Coast. And one of the doctors said, hey, you know what? I went through this exact strategy with them. And I said, you know what? I got an email from an orthodontist in my area that did exactly what you just said, Ian. They wrote, here's all the safety stuff, and they did a direct mail, and I got it. And I was like, yep, it works. So think about that. If you think, okay, I'm going to be opening soon, or I want to start getting a little more proactive or aggressive about marketing for new patients, I would do that. I would make a list of everything you can, put a page on your website, call action to it from your homepage, and then run ads or even mailers focusing on here's all the stuff that we're doing to take safety seriously. Now, the reality is most doctors are probably doing a lot of this stuff already, but most patients don't know it. And so you got to tell them. You can't assume they know this stuff because we all work in the industry. We know this stuff. They don't, right? So don't assume that they do, because I promise you they don't. I talked to a lot of my friends and family to test this out. I said, did you know that doctors do this? Or how much do you think dentists already do? And Like, well, I mean, they probably do some stuff. And I said, here's all the stuff that they typically do. And they're like, really? Like, yeah, none of them knew. You know, if they don't work in our industry, they don't know what you guys do. So tell them, right? That's a big takeaway, I think, from the webinar. Okay. One other thing, I put this guy in here. I think we all know who this guy is, right? So Anthony Fauci. One of the things I want to just kind of leave you with here before I summarize the points and we get into our Q&A. He's a doctor. You're all doctors. In the general public, especially in times of a healthcare, crisis like we're in right now, even in normal times, people tend to put doctors on a little bit of a pedestal and think, okay, their opinion matters. They're a doctor, right? But right now, in particular, if you're in healthcare, you're a doctor in healthcare, your opinion really matters right now. And so I know you aren't epidemiologists, but hey, you guys still are doctors and you still know a lot about this stuff. So when you are communicating on your Facebook and your YouTube and whatever communications you're doing, your newsletters, remember that people are looking up to you. People are scared right now. People want reassurances. People want, to feel like, hey, it's going to be okay. And so try to be positive. Try to be that shining light in your community with your patients and realize that they're looking up to you. They're looking up to you as a doctor to set the tone. And so if you can be positive, if you can say, hey, we're going to get through this together, guys, it's going to be okay. That's going to really help them. So I think this is a public service announcement here for all of us today. Just remember your place in the community, your doctors, you're a little bit elevated on that pedestal for how the population looks at you. Remember that and be positive and take advantage of that, okay? My 2 cents. Now, let me recap what we talked about here just to kind of summarize the strategy for today, what we should do, right? So let's keep that website active. Let's make sure it's up to date with our office hours. If we're doing teledentistry, put it on there. SEO, right? Let's make sure that if we're doing real SEO, let's keep it active. And if we're not doing it, I'd suggest you might really want to think about getting started. It's a really good time to make rapid gains. Social media, right? Post a few times a week, stay in touch, keep it fun and positive. Consider the live chat teledentistry platforms that are out there. These can be really effective. Consider ads, Google, Facebook, even mailers, and then the newsletter, right? Get on Constant Contact or MailChimp. They're pretty simple to set up and send that out. So I think if you guys do these 6 things right now, you can really position yourself to be in a strong position when you do go back and start seeing patients, okay? So those are the main points I really wanted to share today. So also, if people want us to do, I'm happy to kind of just send people this book. If people want us to analyze their websites and analyze this stuff, we're happy to do that for you. We've got consultants and they'll analyze it. It's not a sales pitch. It's just we want to educate, we want to help. And so this is kind of our way to try to give back on this stuff. So I'm just going to have my Q&A, my information up here. If people want to, we'll do Q&A right now. And if people have questions that you feel maybe you'd rather do privately, send me an email, send me a text. I'll make sure I promise I'll answer everyone's questions and get back to you guys on this stuff. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time to join me this morning, and I'll shut up now for a minute and let you guys get into the Q&A here.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it again. So we've got some questions. Let's start with the first one here. Would you please repeat the steps to find out if my website is mobile responsive on Google?
Yes. So just go on to Google, open your browser, whatever browser, doesn't matter which browser, but just get on Google and type in Google Mobile Friendly Test and then hit enter. And then you'll see the search results pop up, and at the search you'll see a little form, a little field there, and it will just have a little field where you can type in your website address. Just type it in, hit run test, and in about 30 seconds Google will display the results for you. And if you're not sure how to interpret those, send me an email. I'll walk you through it, or text or whatever. But it's pretty as long as you get the green that you're mobile friendly, you're good to go. If you get a red, you definitely want to get a hold of your website company and have them fix that.
Okay, thank you. I own the domain and hosting company, but due to COVID-19, I asked my SEO company to stop. I'm not turning the website, but if I don't do anything to the website, will my ranking go down?
Probably, yes. So if you keep the website live but stop doing the SEO, probably the rankings will go down. It depends a little bit on depends a lot on the competition level. So if you're in a major metro area and there's a lot of doctors in your vicinity, then certainly, very, very likely your website rankings will drop. If you are more in a rural setting and there's not a lot of doctors in your town, probably you're okay to do that. It just really depends on your competition and your population density.
Okay. By SEO, are you talking about basic SEO or PPC included?
So SEO and PPC are sometimes confused, but they're totally separate and different things. So search engine optimization is a bunch of things you do to get Google to organically kind of naturally reward you with rankings. There's nothing you can do to pay Google for an organic ranking. It's really Google rewards people for having unique content, for having engaging content where people come to the website, for having your directories filled out, for having lots of reviews. And so there's lots of things you can do to improve your Google rankings. And Google rewards you for that. And the reason you want to focus on that primarily is 93% of the clicks on page one go to the organic rankings. Only 7% go on the paid ads. So yes, you can get on page one with paid ads, and I do recommend paid ads. They're good, but just understand that 93% of the clicks are on the organic SEO ranking. So if you want to think about bang for the buck, by far the best bang for the buck is focusing on get your Google rankings as high as possible. And that's not something you can pay Google for. It's something you would pay an agency for.
Okay. How many staff members do you suggest having to answer phones for different levels of phone call volumes?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things that we do with some of our clients, especially those who are investing, thousands a month in digital marketing or marketing in general, is consider the use of an overflow call center. So there are some pretty good call centers out there. None of them are perfect. I mean, they all are not as good as maybe your staff would be. But what I recommend for folks is if you're spending money on marketing and your staff can't get to the phone, consider a call center that can handle overflow calls. We've worked with some pretty good ones out there. But the thing about how these call centers are structured, if you've never used one before, they can be set up several different ways. So they can answer all incoming calls. They can answer only new patient incoming calls. They can answer only calls after certain hours and days when you're not open. They can answer calls only after like the third ring. If you don't answer it after 3 rings, then it goes to them. So it's really, really flexible and customizable how these call centers typically work. If you're going to choose one, again, send me an email. I can send you some options. There's 2 or 3 that I like, that I've used. With them, you want to make sure that you understand kind of what is the flow for your practice. If you guys are always closed for lunch from 12 to 1 and no one's answering the phone from 12 to 1, I'm talking normal times now, the call center can know, hey, we'll answer the phone from 12 to 1, or we'll always answer it after 3 rings. My recommendation is that the 3-ring approach is always good. So I just kind of do a blanket with my clients, like, hey, if you're really investing in marketing, I would recommend because these call centers are not terribly expensive. They're like, the entry packages are like a couple $100 a month. And it's like, look, anything after 3 rings, if my staff doesn't answer, it goes to the call center, because you don't want to miss those calls, right? And so that's what I'd recommend. It's a staff, whatever you're comfortable staffing, an overflow, go to a call center.
Terrific. Okay, do we ask patients to write reviews that we're seeing for emergencies, or do we ask them to write them later when things resume?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now, I think it's most effective to ask for reviews in the heat of the moment, right? So shortly after the appointment's over or at the end of the appointment. So we have a review software, and there are many of them out there, but our review software works similarly, where you can set it up so it integrates with the practice management software. And then at the end of the appointment, they'll get a text message. And so the staff person, the doctor, or the staff person can say, hey, we'd love to get your feedback. Don't ask. It's important how you ask too. You don't want to say, can you write us a review? Nobody feels comfortable saying that, and nobody likes being asked that. But it's much, much better and disarming to say, hey, thanks for coming in today. We would love to get your feedback. Would you mind giving us some feedback online? Would it be okay if we sent you a text message? And then when that text message comes in, they'll write a review, and it's not threatening and it's not leading, right? So I would encourage people to kind of think about it that way. Right now, because Google's probably not posting reviews as far as I know, I would just send them to Facebook or Healthgrades or Yelp or wherever you can send them to. And then when Google kind of turns back on, then start sending them back to Google. But I would still ask for reviews right now if you could.
All righty. How do you convince the doctor to do a video for social media? This will be good.
Yeah. that's always like pulling teeth, no pun intended, right? Knowing my audience here.
Yeah.
Um, so when I do these lectures, I always get pushback from the doctors on, oh, I don't want to be on a video. I don't like how I look on a video. I'm not good in front of the camera, right? And all that kind of thing. And, and I get it. I mean, we always look, I do tons of public speaking, and I see myself on video, and I'm used to it. And I still think I look weird and sound weird. So I get it. But the reality is, these videographers, that they just, like, most of these videographers are pretty darn good, and they can really work magic. So almost every time when I have a doctor who, like, I don't want to do this, and then we convince them to do it, and then they see the videos like, oh, actually that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like one of those things, just, consider it. That's for a professional video shoot. Now for the selfie videos, again, I would just encourage them, if what is the reason that they don't want to do it, and maybe try to dig a little bit. Is it because they don't understand the technology piece of it, and they just don't want to mess around and get frustrated? Well, then, find a YouTube video that explains it and send it to them, and maybe that'll disarm them a little bit, right? Yeah. If it's like, I don't think I'm going to look good on the video, or I'm going to look silly, so just have fun with it, and maybe you do it first and show them, hey, here's what I'm talking about, and show them the video, and they're like, okay, that's not so bad. So it's not always going to work, but I would encourage you to try some of those strategies to maybe get them to give it a shot.
Yeah. All right. I am conditioned to be totally blind to the top of the page paid ads. Am I the only one?
No, you are not the only one. I personally almost never click on the ads because I know they're ads. But sometimes I do if the relevance, if the content's still what I'm looking for. But the reality is, the ads, you only pay for an ad when somebody clicks on it. So you're paying for what you're not paying for something that you're not getting. You are paying. If you pay for clicks, you will get the clicks. And so, like I said, 7% of the traffic will click on the ads. So, like, if you run a campaign and nobody clicks on your ad, well, then you don't get charged anything, right? But there's a huge amount of people who do click on those ads. 7% may not sound like a lot, but think about it this way. Google makes over $1 billion a month in profit on those clicks. That's a lot of clicks.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a lot of clicks. I'd love to have that business model.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to consider doing the ads, but the caveat there is the ads really require a lot of know-how. It's really easy to waste money because it's not just setting up an ad. It's the messaging in the ad. It's the click-through rate. It's setting up the landing page that they drop on. It's the offer on the landing page. So I would encourage you to really consider using an agency who has a lot of experience in that area. Like, some things you can do it yourself, like social media posts, do it yourself. SEO and PPC, I would outsource that to an agency. It's actually fairly technical to do it well and do it properly.
All right. Kind of a second question by this individual. Can you ask Google to remove malicious reviews posted by a fake name?
Yeah, that's another question I get a lot. So yes, the answer is yes. So on any, I'll just answer this across all review sites. So any review site that you see a review that you believe is not a patient of record, absolutely, as a business owner or even as an employee of that business, you have the right to approach that review company and say, hey, this is not a patient of record, this is not a customer of our business, and this is doing damage to our practice and our business, our reputation. And so my experience has been, when you as a business owner do it, doesn't often work. Where I have seen it work a few times, hire an attorney, have them draft a letter on their letterhead, not yours, but on their letterhead, and to say, hey, my client, and they'll know how to word it. I'm not an attorney, but I'll kind of paraphrase here for you. My client has a review on your review site that is not from one of their patrons or clients or patients or whatever it is. That review is doing defamatory damage to my client's business. It's hurting the value of their business. I'm asking you to please remove that review immediately. Not threatening, just matter of fact, like, hey, this is not legit. Please remove it, right? When it comes on attorney letterhead, people tend to pay attention to that, right? Because of the implied threat behind that. So that's what I've seen work. Is if you want to start with it yourself and don't spend the money on an attorney, that's a good idea, right? Try it yourself. Probably won't work. Try it an attorney. Maybe it will work. It's a bugger of a thing. The other strategy there is if you actually know who wrote it, contact them offline and just say, hey, can I talk to you about this? And a lot of times, if you just take the time, a lot of times they'll actually either remove it or improve the star rating.
There's a question, what is PMS?
Practice management software. So Dentrix, EagleSoft, Open Dental.
Thank you. Should the doctors be the one communicating or the marketing manager for the doctors?
Communicating with the patients, you mean, to ask for reviews?
I'm not sure where where that's coming from, or communicating what the office is doing about PPE and other safety things.
Yeah, yeah, I could answer it, I guess, a couple of different ways. So
Yeah.
if you're communicating with with a marketing agency, I think the marketing coordinator and the doctor would both be well served to communicate with them. The doctor is going to want to see results, and the marketing coordinator can kind of speak the language. If it's talking about what am I doing for, like, if you're talking like a teledentistry platform, it's probably more the doctor type person. I guess it depends on who we're talking about communicating with, I guess.
Do we need to hire a professional for SEO, or can we optimize it ourselves?
Both. So there are some things you can definitely do yourself that will be very helpful. Things that you can do yourself that are helpful, write unique content on your website. And this is, again, a great thing to do right now when you've got a little downtime. Go through your website. If you haven't read through your site in a while, which probably a lot of people don't go to their website that often, go on your website and look at all your service pages in particular, especially the things you want to rank for. Dentist, cosmetic dentist, implants, bridges, Invisalign, like whatever those terms are, go to the pages on your website and write it in your voice, unique content, it's written by you. That kind of thing will help your SEO performance. Likewise, if you don't have pages on that, like, I offer Invisalign now. Well, if you don't have a page about that, man, you better get a page about that if you want to rank for it, right? So go through the website, make sure it has all the services you want on there, and write as much of that content uniquely yourself. That's a huge factor. Like, if you can give your website company unique content for them to post, that will help. That will help, and that's something you can do yourself. Other things you can do yourself, getting reviews on the review sites, whether you're using a software or asking people personally, or a combination of both. Driving reviews is helpful. Posting to social media is not super helpful in by itself, but if you can have engaging content, which usually means videos, Google looks at all kinds of things, right? And so Google looks at social media posting is not a very strong factor actually for your rankings, but engagement is. So if people are commenting on your social media posts, they're sharing it, they're retweeting it, they're liking it, if they're engaging with your content, that's a strong social media, that's a strong SEO factor. So the things that I generally think people can do themselves: writing unique content, getting lots of reviews, and having good social media. The stuff that an agency can do that you're probably not going to be able to do is really optimizing the code, cleaning up the directories, doing a bunch of the technical work, also super important. So I just think if you want to do it yourself, that's the stuff you can do. But if you really want to go to the next level, hire an agency, but make sure that they're going to do those kinds of things.
Okay. Along those lines, what is a good company for video professional recording?
So what we do is, because we're national and we work with clients everywhere, we have built a huge network of individual videographers. And so we have a full-time videographer on staff who sources. So what he does is he'll interview, like if we have a client in Baltimore or whatever, right? Well, we're in Portland, Oregon. We don't know anybody in Baltimore. So what we do is our videographer, he gets on, there's a huge videographer network that he's a part of. And it's almost like crowdsourcing kind of. And so he can interview people and view their work and talk to them. And then we can hire somebody remotely to do the shoot, so they can actually go into the practice and do the shoot as per the specifications we give them. And then our videographer does all the post-production and final edits in our office in Portland. And that way we have control over the content. So I don't know of any, national companies I could recommend, honestly. There just aren't a lot of them. Videography is like graphic design. It's just photography. It's one of those things that's there's a million independent contractors. So that's what we've done to be able to harness that independent contractor group, but still have a national kind of coordinated approach. So that's kind of how we do it.
Okay. Which call centers do you recommend?
So the one that I've used the most, that I'm most comfortable with, is they're based in Georgia. It's called Concierge Contact Center. And I believe that's just the website address. So if you Google Concierge Contact Center, and I can, Shay Davis is the head of sales person there. She's a really nice gal. So yeah, if you want me, I can send people their contact information, or you can just Google Concierge Contact Center. They're the ones that I probably would have the most confidence in recommending.
You stated to update patients with articles. Should we write these on our own, or can we use public sources?
Well, the articles are only going to be useful for SEO if they're original, unique content. So you can certainly post, like, if the ADA or the AGD or whatever you're somebody like, if there's some article that you like and you think is really valuable content for your patients to know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with posting that as long as you have permission to post it. But if you want SEO benefit, it kind of needs to be unique. So that's kind of the rule of thumb. Depending on who writes it, I don't have a strong opinion on who writes it. It's really, what benefit are you trying to get from it? If you're trying to educate patients, it doesn't have to be unique. But if you want to get education, patients, and SEO benefit, then it should be uniquely written, only on your website.
Is it wrong to answer a call by putting the patient on hold if attending to a patient in the clinic or answering another call? What is the right protocol?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. That's probably a better question for the doctors in the audience than me. But I think it's fine to put somebody on hold as long as it's not too long. And again, if you are on an urgent call, and if you had that call center thing going, like I talked about with the 3-ring overflow, then you're not so worried about those type of situations, and you can kind of give people the attention when you're on the phone with them. I don't think people generally mind. It's like, oh, could you please hold for a minute, and then you come back in a few seconds. People are fine with that. But if you put them on hold for a minute or two and come back, that's kind of annoying. So I think if you could partner with a call center on the overflow calls, it helps alleviate that issue sometimes.
Okay. Does linking to trusted sites help with SEO? Example, COVID blog and link to CDC site.
So that's a good question. When your website links to another website, it doesn't actually help your SEO. It helps their SEO. So what Google looks at is actually what's called an incoming link, meaning some other website out there on the internet, they have your website linked on their website. So if I'm on the ADA, let's just say I'm on the Washington AGD website, okay, and there's a link for Dr. Gary Hayamoto on there. And so I don't know if there is or not, Gary. I'm just saying there is. So let's say there is, and let's say that link goes to Dr. Gary's website, okay. That helps Dr. Gary's website because the AGD website's linking to it. It does not help the AGD website. That makes sense. So the link has to be pointing at your website to help your SEO, not pointing away from your website. Hopefully
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Works.
Yeah. All righty. This is from obviously a very old dentist, but are newspaper ads too old-fashioned and not effective? Small city, weekly, well-read local paper. Thank you, Dr. Cunnington, for that question.
So say that again, something about the look.
Are newspaper ads too old-fashioned and not effective? And this doctor is in a smaller city, and they've got a local paper that's a weekly and it's well-read.
That's about the only situation where I'd say it's worth a shot. So if you're in a major metro market, it's way too expensive for a small practice to, or 1 or 2, 3 location group to even think about. But if you're in a smaller town, they actually can still work. We've done some marketing campaigns for, like, we had one group as a general dentistry practice in kind of East Texas. They were in a town, probably, I don't know, 10, 20 doctors in the town, not a big town. And we were doing some newspaper ads for them. They were doing really, really well. So the thing with marketing, one of the things I've learned and been humbled over the years, even somebody like me who does it for a living and has a lot of knowledge, I'm still wrong more than I'd like to admit to you guys. And so I don't know until I test stuff, like with some things I know, like Google, it's very consistent. Like, we know, I can almost say 99% of the time, exactly if we do this, we know it's going to work. It's very predictable. We know how it works. With direct advertising, it's much more variable. Like direct mail campaigns, newspaper ads, print ads, it's much more variable. It's much harder to predict. And so what I typically tell people is, if you can afford it, and honestly, this kind of sounds bad, but think of it like gambling almost. Like if you can afford to lose the money, and not get a return on the investment, go ahead and give it a shot. Generally, what I see works better is if you can get those smaller publications that are not as expensive, because it really comes down to price. the price per exposure. So if you can try something like that, it sometimes can work. Yeah.
So along those lines, how well do those, when you print up a flyer of your office and put it in the grocery stores, how well does that work?
Generally not great. Those types of things, I mean, you can do some of the local marketing, like if you have a marketing outreach coordinator or somebody like that, they can definitely do those types of things. I worked with a group on the East Coast that had about 6 locations, and we did a bunch of that type of stuff, and we had unique phone tracking numbers on the various things that we tried. And generally those types of things, they sound good, but they just generally didn't produce a lot of results. But again, it varies. I mean, that's just my experience. It doesn't mean I'm right. So if you go and you try this in your market, it might work in your market, right? So the thing with marketing, if you can try something that's not expensive to try it. Why not, right?
Yeah.
So.
Okay, this is probably going to be our last question for you. You mentioned not having a non-professional video on your website during normal times, but I'm looking to start a YouTube channel which would be made on a phone. Would those be okay to link to our website?
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 aspects of how I would answer that. So when you shoot videos, I always recommend to host them on YouTube if you can, for a couple of reasons. YouTube is owned by Google. Probably most people know that. And so YouTube videos are indexed and shown in Google searches. So when somebody types in Dennis Seattle and the websites pop up, also videos pop up in search results as well. So if you have YouTube videos, it's kind of like having a bunch of little mini websites that can get found in search results. So there's a benefit from that, simply hosting it on YouTube. Now, in terms of linking it to the website, it goes both ways. On your website, you can certainly have a little icon, like you have a little Facebook icon, a little Twitter icon, or whatever. It links to your social media pages. You can have a YouTube icon that links to your YouTube channel. That's true. But what's really more impactful, is to embed the videos into the website. So YouTube has a really simple way, your website company, it's called an iframe, I-F-R-A-M-E, iframe. It's a little simple piece of code that every YouTube video has. And you click on embed by the video. There's like a little tab when you're looking at the video, and you click embed and it shows you the iframe code. You literally just copy and paste it into the website code. And there's like some minor adjustments you got to do, but it's very simple for any website company to do this for you. So if you have YouTube videos and you want your website company to put it on the website, it's very simple. Honestly, I can do it in literally 30 seconds. It is not hard. So you take the iframe code, you put it on a website, you resize it, you make sure it fits and doesn't break the page. It's pretty simple to do. So that would be my recommendation, is if you're put the stuff on YouTube and then have your website company put it on your website. But I would say the one caveat there is I would say be a little bit careful, because the aesthetics of your website still do matter. And so I wouldn't litter up your homepage with a bunch of selfie videos. Maybe you can get away with one or something, but maybe have like a video blog, a video blog, or videos or FAQs from the doctor. Like there are places on the website you can put a bunch of those kind of videos, but the homepage, I'd be careful, because homepage generally you want to look pretty sharp. Okay.
Well, thank you, Mr. McNickle. I really appreciate you spending time with us at the Washington Academy of General Dentistry Stay Home, Stay Healthy CE series here. I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen. For the rest of you that are on this webinar, I'm going to bring up our little PowerPoint with our slideshow of upcoming webinars. We do have another webinar here in 40 minutes, so grab yourself something to eat and join us at noon for Janice Hurley. She's going to speak about leadership in the times of COVID. And then please take a look at the other speakers we have coming up. Use those QR codes to register. Your CE credits for this webinar today will appear from the University of Washington in your email box probably in the next 2 to 3 days. So be looking for that. Save a copy of that PDF just in case there's some problems down the road. If for some reason the QR codes are not working for you, use www.washingtonagd.org. Again, want to thank our Executive Director, Valerie Bartoli. I want to thank our panelist, Dr. Gary Hayamoto, our speaker today, Mr. Ian McNickle, And I'd like to thank all our co-sponsors, the University of Washington School of Dentistry CE, Comet USA, the Canadian Academy of Restorative Dentist and Prosthodontics, Pierce County Dental Society, Seattle King County Dental Society, Snohomish County Dental Society, Patterson Dental, and who are we missing from that? Oh, yes, our student chapter, the Academy of General Dentistry UW student chapter. Thank you for your sponsorship and your support. And with that, we're going to just let this play for a little bit longer so you can see what's coming up over the next couple of weeks. We have another 20 webinars lined up for you. And by the time we get back to work, I would estimate we'll have up to another 30 webinars. This afternoon, dentists, hygienists, assistants, you'll want to watch Dr. Taser Suleiman. He's going to be talking about whitening and reviewing the literature for the last 30 years and kind of putting us, letting us know where we're at and what's working and what's not working there, more from an academic standpoint. So don't forget, Deborah Engelhardt Nash is going to be speaking Wednesday, tomorrow. And Dr. Giardino is going to be updating us on the new classification system for periodontal disease and peri-implantitis. AGD members, we will be submitting your CE credit directly to the Academy of General Dentistry. And so you don't need to do that. It will probably end up on your transcript in 2 to 4 weeks, I would guess. So with that, thank you again. And from the Washington Academy of General Dentistry, we're saying stay home, stay healthy, and please enjoy this free CE. Valerie, you can take us out.
Thank you, Dr. Hess.